morning. So I'm here today to talk about the plays that we're going to be performing in France. How about Maid Marian? Maid Marian is a particular favourite amongst German people and actors because it's very like the British system of pantomime. We've got the legends of Robin Hood. He's actually a nobleman, but he's upset the sheriff of Nottingham, and so he goes and hides in the forest, and he robs the rich to pay the poor. And Maid Marian is his girlfriend. Yes, in the original versions of this story, back in the 13th, 14th century, Marian was a real warrior, a warrior woman who could shoot arrows and attack people with sticks, and that's great. And then in more recent versions of it, it's much more with Robin as the hero and having to rescue poor little Maid Marian, who's always getting into trouble and being captured and so on. In 18th and 19th and particularly 20th century versions of this story, once again we've gone back to the original idea of Marian as a fierce warrior. And Robin Hood, he's a sweet guy, but he's constantly having to be rescued by his girlfriend. And central to this play is the Sheriff of Nottingham. He's the one where when he comes onto the stage, all the audience goes boo, boo, and try to affect him. And he's constantly trying to capture Robin Hood because he wants to marry Maid Marian. We can see them in various adventures and how the two of them try and stick by their motto of rob the rich to pay the poor. Now for slightly older pupils, sort of 14, 15, maybe even 16-year-olds, we've got Dreaming in English. This is, it's really an old-fashioned love story, I think. It's about a German girl who's been sent to England, to the town of Brighton, because her marks in English are so bad and she needs to improve her English scores. And while she's there, she meets an English boy. He takes her out, he buys her an ice cream to start with on the beach, and then he takes her out, shows her what it's like in an English pub. He shows her all the different things that happen in Brighton, and then about halfway through the play he takes her to London. And they visit all the famous sites, Madame Tussauds and the London Eye and all the different things you can see in London. And at the end they're really starting to get quite close to each other. And then the play stops and the actors turn to the audience and say, how would you like it to end now? Dreaming in English is not just a sweet, happy play about being in London and seeing the sights. It also shows us some of the less happy sides of London, like there's what we call a bag lady. This is a homeless woman whose all her possessions are in just a few plastic bags. And there are plenty of people like that in London, people who sleep on the streets. And there are lots of other characters in similar situations. And this sort of thing, of course, is happening all the time in London. We don't notice it all. We just see the nice bits. But I've tried in this play to show some of the nasty bits of London, the unhappy bits, the people who aren't quite making it. And I hope that people will think about this, will think about the contents of this play and about who the characters are and how they got to be where they are. Then finally, I need to talk about Romeo and Juliet, possibly one of the best known plays ever written. What can I say about it that hasn't already been said? Well, Shakespeare said everything about it, really. Two young people from two different families. The families are at war with each other. The two of them meet at a party and they just fall in love, just completely fall in love. And how can things possibly work out? Romeo and Juliet is a tragedy. It's interesting. The first half of the play, is more like a comedy. There's in particular a character called Mercutio, who is a comedian. Lots of fun and making jokes all the time. And then halfway through the play, Mercutio is killed in a street fight. And suddenly the whole atmosphere of the play has changed. And Romeo then kills the man that killed Tybalt, and Romeo is banished to another town, which means he will probably never see his girlfriend Juliet again. And then, well, no, again, it's the best way of, I think it's best if you don't know what's going to happen. Most people do know because it's such a well-known play, but if you don't know, then you've got all the more pleasure and excitement of seeing this extraordinary story, which is one of the great works of literature. Juliet, she's a sweet girl, she's about 13 or 14 years old, and she's very much under the domination of her father, but she then throws everything away, escapes from the house, refuses to marry the person that her father has chosen. It shows us how people really can find an inner strength in themselves if they want to, if they look for it. And I'm directing this play myself this year and can't wait to get my hands on it because I think it's a most wonderful play. A lot of Romeo and Juliet is written in the form of what we call a sonnet. It's a 14-line poem, and Shakespeare has incorporated sonnets into the play. You have to know that they're there, you have to listen for them. And, that is, again, exciting. Just the language of this play is extraordinarily beautiful, and that's another of the reasons why people still find the play relevant and want to see it.